This is the first lesson of Chapter 2, Scale Factors and Similarities. Before we go into the lesson, I just wanted to show a quick reminder of when we're multiplying by 10 or dividing by 10, because this unit is about measurement, and when we're converting between different units, it's often either multiplying or dividing by 10, 100, or 1,000. Thankfully, they're really easy calculations to do. So if you're multiplying by 10, you move the decimal place 1 to the right. If it's by 100, it's 2 to the right. If it's by 1,000, it's 3 to the right. And you can remember those numbers because it corresponds to how many zeros there are. Dividing is the exact same, except it's going to the left instead of to the right. There's a couple examples here of what that would look like. So if we had 7.2 multiplied by these different options, what would it be? You just add a 0 every time, essentially. And the same if we were dividing a number by these different numbers. So just a quick recap of that so that you can do those unit conversions quickly. So lesson 2.1 is on SI measurement. You might be asking, what is SI? It is the International System of Units. And why is it SI and not IS? The reason is whoever made this up, it is written in French. So I don't know the exact words in French, but International System of Units is like something that the acronym would be SI for. So that's why. An easier word to remember it by is it's just the metric system. This is the system of measurement that we use in Canada and most of the world uses. I think it's everybody except for the United States that uses the metric system for measuring. From the smallest units in the metric system to the largest, we've got millimeters, centimeters, decimeters, meters, and kilometers. Hopefully those sound familiar. This conversion table kind of shows how many like centimeters are in meters and millimeters, etc. So this is something that you'll need to memorize. 1 centimeter is 10 millimeters. So on a regular ruler, the like larger lines are usually centimeters, and the tiny ones in between are the millimeters. 1 decimeter is 10 centimeters. You may not have heard of this before. I don't think I've used a decimeter ever in my life, but it is a unit that exists, and it's 10 centimeters. Then we've got 1 meter, which is 100 centimeters, and 1 kilometer, which is 1,000 meters. If you're going to struggle to remember that, this might be a way to help memorize it. Always start at meters. Always go from meters. So a kilometer, because the word kilo means 1,000, then a kilometer or a kilometer is going to be 1,000 meters. Centi means 100th. And so then that indicates that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. In other words, a centimeter is 0.01 meters. And if you move this decimal place over twice, then that would make more sense because we're multiplying by 100. Deci means 1/10. So it is 1/10 of a meter, so 0.1 meters. And milli means 1/1000th. So a millimeter is 0.001 meters. And then if you move this decimal place over 3 times, that's the same as multiplying by 1,000. So then that indicates that there are 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. So I don't know if that makes it more confusing or less confusing, but the more we practice with this, the quicker these unit conversions are going to be in your head. A measurement referent. This is something that's familiar or convenient to you that you can use to estimate lengths. So for example, maybe the length of your hand is about 15 centimeters. I measured mine today, so from the tip of my middle finger to my wrist is about 15 centimeters, which is a tiny ruler. So that is a measurement referent that I could use to estimate measurements of things around me. Another possibility, I measured my fingernail on my index finger. It's about 1 centimeter long. So there's another referent I could use to measure things around me. So for example, use your hand and estimate how wide your desk is. So I already said that my hand is about a small ruler length, so 15 centimeters. And if I go across my desk, which I'm doing now and you can't see, there's about 3.5 hands wide. That's the width of my desk. So if one of my hands is about 15 centimeters and there's 3.5 of them, I just multiply those together and I would get 52.5 centimeters. So my estimate is that my desk is about 52.5 centimeters wide. So this is a really useful method or skill to have because you don't always have a measuring tool on you. And it's really, really simple to measure things using estimates. So it might not be perfect, but it can be pretty close. The rest of this lesson is going to be about converting between units. There's two methods you can use, and I'll explain both of them. You just need to pick one that works for you. The first one is called unit analysis. So for example, if we're converting 270 centimeters to meters, we want to know how many meters that is. So to do so, we would set up something that looks like this. So the first thing we would write down is what you're already given. So we know that we're given 270 centimeters. We're going to multiply it by something. I've left it as an empty box for now. And this something is the conversion ratio. In other words, how many centimeters are in meters or vice versa. And I'll talk more about that in a second. And this is going to be equal to whatever answer we're looking for and then the units that we want. So we're going from centimeters to meters. So we have centimeters here and meters over here. But now we have to fill in those boxes. So the conversion ratio in this case is 1 meter over 100 centimeters because we know 100 centimeters is in 1 meter. How do you know which one goes on the top and which one goes on the bottom? Well, I write right here, the units that you want for your answer go on the top and the units that you're already given go on the bottom. So we want meters, so that goes on top. We're given centimeters, so that goes on the bottom. If it was going in the other direction, then you would have 100 centimeters over 1 meter. So you have the numbers regardless, and then it's just a matter of which one goes on top based on what unit you're given and what unit you're trying to get to. So then we can do some calculations. This centimeter and this centimeter actually get to cancel out because this one is on top and this one is on the bottom. So the centimeter on the top cancels out the centimeter on the bottom. And then you can just multiply fractions like normal. So remember, if we have 270 times 1 over 100, that's the same thing as 270 over 1. Because if a denominator is not written, then the denominator is 1. So then you just multiply the tops together and you multiply the bottoms together. So pretty easy calculation there. And that's how I get to 270 meters over 100. Then I want to reduce further so I can cancel out those two zeros because they can divide, leaving me with 27 over 10. Then I can go one step further because I don't want a fraction. Again, divide by 10. 27 divided by 10 gives me 2.7 because I just moved the decimal place 1 over to the left because I'm dividing by 10. So therefore, we know that 270 centimeters is 2.7 meters. So that's the unit analysis method. The other method you could try is called proportional reasoning. It's the same idea, it's just set up a little different. So I'll show you with a slightly different question, 256 centimeters to meters. So how we set that up is first we write the conversion ratio. So we already kind of talked about that. We write the conversion ratio with the units that we want on the top. So far that's the same. We're going from centimeters to meters. So meters will be on top, centimeters on the bottom. This is going to be equal to whatever you're looking for. So this empty box, and we know that that's in meters because that's what we're looking for. And then it's over the value that we're given. So the left side is the conversion ratio. The right side is your answer over what you're given. And so I have an important note here to remember when you're doing this proportional reasoning setup, the units on the top have to match and the units on the bottom have to match. So centimeters on the bottom here, then centimeters has to be on the bottom here, and vice versa. Now, we can just isolate our unknown box here to isolate as in get it on its own by multiplying both sides by 256. Because if I have this box over 256, it's getting divided by 256. If I multiply by that, then they're going to cancel out. Because if you multiply something and then divide it by the same number, those things just cancel each other out. But if I do it to this side, I also have to do it to this side. So essentially, I'm just multiplying both sides by whatever's in the bottom here so that I can get this box on its own. So now the box is on its own, and I do this quick calculation. Remember, this is the same as 256 over 1, so this fraction just becomes 256 over 100. And then we just calculate that. If we're dividing by 100, we move the decimal place 2 to the left. So we get 2.56 as our answer. So therefore, 256 centimeters is 2.56 meters. And that is how you convert between different units in the metric system.